Everyone, welcome. We would like to take you into a talk about drone racing. My name is Stefan. These are my two other colleagues, Nick and Jill. We would like you to introduce in a new, exciting new sport of drone racing, on which we think it's the next big thing. And by any experience, we can tell you it's awesome. Now, one video is more than 1,000 words, and this is what we're talking about.
Kunnen we geluid krijgen?
No audio. Zet even op pauze. One technical issue, one moment. Sorry.
Als we dat niet weten natuurlijk.
Aan de insteken? Ja.
Start hem op dus. Nick. And okay. Do have your attention. So, let's talk about the drone themselves. Most racing drones are available as kits. This means you basically have to buy all the parts and put them together yourself. The drone racing community is amazing and very active online. So you can get any information you need through different channels. We talk you in this presentation through the build of a racing drone and show you the different components. So I would like to give the word at Nick.
Okay, I like to talk you through the build of a racing drone. First of all, we start off with the frame. This is a mini H frame. The frame is called that way because of its shape. It's in the shape of an H. And it basically puts the propellers more to the side so that you don't have the propellers in your view. So you can watch everything what is in front of you. The frame is completely made out of carbon fiber, which is very light and also very strong. And that's exactly what we need because we don't keep them in the air as often as you might think. We have two bottom plates, and there are four arms mounted in between. On top of that are 8 standoffs with a top plate on top. And in between that actually goes all the electronic parts. The small piece on top is to mount an optional camera like a GoPro to record your flights with, as you saw in the beginning movie. Then we have the ESCs and brushless motors. The ESCs, or electronic speed controllers, basically give the signals to the brushless motors so they can turn. The brushless motors are used a lot in radio-controlled aircraft, airplanes and drones, because of their efficiency, power, longevity, and one other thing. And because they are really lightweight, so they're a lot better than the traditional burst motors. Then we have the flight controller. The flight controller is actually the brain of the drone. It processes data it gets from gyroscopes on the board itself and converts them to signals, which are later sent to the ESCs. So the data processed makes the drone fly in a certain angle so that it doesn't have another course. Then we have the RC transmitter and RC receiver, which are needed, of course, to communicate with between the drone and the pilot. The more modern receiver sets also provide telemetry data back to the pilot itself. Telemetry data like battery voltage or radio control signal strength, so that you don't go out of range and lose your drone. Then another important thing, the batteries. The batteries used for racing drones are lithium polymer batteries. They are used because they're lightweight and they can provide a lot of current at one moment. For racing, it's really important to choose the right battery. You don't want a heavy battery, but you want a lighter battery, but you still have to make sure you can complete all your laps with the battery, of course. To show you what you might need to do when building a drone yourself, I'm going to show you a little build video I made myself, and you will see what you'll need.
So as you can see, it involves a lot of work to put a racing drone together. Once we have this part of the racing drone, we have to talk a little bit about the first-person view, the FPV, because the video downlink is what we need to get the drone up and running in the air. FPV stands for FPV, first-person view. So basically, it means that you are inside the aircraft. That's the meaning of it. We have two cameras. One is the CCD camera. It's frequently used in security systems, and we use it in our drone to pilot them through the air. We have the video transmitter. It stands for the downlink, the video through your goggles, as you can see over there. So it means exactly what it says. It sends a downlink of the video through your goggles, and you're inside the aircraft when you fly it. Also, a lot of pilots use a GoPro or another action camera to record the flight sessions and put it on the popular channels such as YouTube or Vimeo and other things like that.
So what we will see next is a Dvr recording. This is what you see through your goggles. The reason why there's so many artifacts in the video is that it's analog. 2015 analog. What? No. It's analog because of a few reasons. First of all is the latency in the video. An analog video feed is almost instant and doesn't freeze or lock up. In most wireless digital video applications, there's quite an amount of latency, and you need quite some bandwidth and have a steady feed. When you are racing, the drone can reach speeds of about 100 kilometers an hour. At those speeds, even the tenth of a second is about 2 meters in delay. So when the latency gets higher than that, the drone feels like it's lagging and controlling itself, and you crash quite often. We would like to talk about the tracks we are flying. The tracks we set, most of the time, we set them up ourselves, and they can be very different. We basically have 3 types of tracks: the natural tracks, the air gate tracks, and the indoor tracks. You will see here an example of a natural track. It consists of nothing but objects that are in the flying spot. One can fly between the trees, around bushes, over hills. Anything goes, really. One thing you have to keep in mind when flying between objects is that you are able to keep your radio and video link all the way around the track. Objects like trees and bushes can cause your link to be very poor and thus making it harder to fly. Also, we have the air gate track. You see a video of that here, very popular. An air gate track, on the other hand, consists of gates through which a pilot has to fly. This brings in the difficulty of handling the third dimension, height. Because of the fact that the pilot has to fly through the air gates, the altitude of the flight never is very high, about 1-2 meters at max. The pilot also has to take into consideration the other pilots are constantly trying to take over. Since every pilot is flying through the gates, the space is limited and crashes might occur also. The air gate tracks are usually set up on an open field that provide enough space to create a track layout from scratch. There has been very creative designs lately using multiple air gates next to each other, on top of each other, of even entire tunnels to make it even more challenging to race. Then the last one, the indoor track, very popular in Belgium because of the weather. Indoor tracks have been popular since some pilots became very creative to find a location during winter times. Bad weather kept the pilot grounded and looking for alternatives. Probably the most popular indoor locations are parking lots. They are warm, provide very good lighting, and are really exciting to race in. On the other hand, they cost a lot of money for the drone racer because they're really unforgiving when making a mistake. You have the ceiling, you have the floor, and then you have the poles between. So it's you find yourself rebuilding your drone every time you fly this track. Okay, Nick.
Okay,
please.
let's talk about the racing. The racing is done in different ways. We have basically two types of racing. We have time trial races and tournament-style races. The time trial racing is very straightforward. You try to fly a certain track from start to finish as fast as possible. Most of the time, the pilots have a couple of rounds to improve their time. On the other hand, time trial can also be very challenging. You have to put everything in one lap. There's no strategy. You just have to go as fast as possible. Also, you're most of the time the only pilot flying. So you have a whole crowd watching you, the other pilots from the event too. So if you make a mistake, you can do the walk of shame to retrieve your quadcopter again. And it's always fun, as long as you're not the pilot doing the walk. So then we have tournament-style racing. It's a little bit more about strategy. Tournament-style racing has become very popular the last couple of months because there is an increasing number of pilots that register for these events. Internationally, we had around 120 pilots registering for an event. So if you are going to do time trials then yeah, it takes just too long to let everyone fly one lap after each other. So yeah, they converted to a tournament-style event, and then a tournament-style event, you have a couple of heats where you fly with other pilots at the same time, and every heat you can gain points by finishing first, second, third, fourth, and of course the points you get more points if you finish first than second, of course. After a couple of rounds, the points are added up and determine your position in the tournament. Most of the time, the last races are done in the final. So, for example, the last 16 pilots advance to the finals, and there are several elimination races, so that the first two pilots only go through to the next final until the first positions are won by the pilots. So as I said, tournament-style racing is more about strategy because you rather finish second and gain some points than race the whole heat first and crash in the last lap, which you don't get points for, of course. So that's the main difference between time trial and tournament. Also, with tournament-style racing, there is also the custom that you have a secondary person right behind you. We call it a spotter. He or she watches the racetrack for you and can determine where you are on the track relative to the other pilots. Because, for example, if you are racing in the semifinals and there are already two pilots crashed and you are one of both pilots still flying, you can take it easy and just finish your laps without having the risk to crash, of course. Yeah. Thank you.
So a lot of work has already been done to organize races. Now they even have some software to time track you when you're racing in a race. It works with a transponder, and once you go through a gate, they clock your time that you've done. So it's really handy because there's no discussion who's faster or whatever. So. It's growing big. It's growing really big. Maybe, yeah, that's it. We also have already a lot of events in Belgium. It keeps growing. Every week there's a race in Belgium and in the Netherlands also. Every week we can subscribe to a race. In Belgium we have the Drone Racing Belgium crew. They organize a lot of races indoor. In Jonck they do it most frequently. Around the world we have also the Drone Racing Nationals. It's a very big event. If you win there, you can win $25,000, so that's a lot of money. This year it will take place in Hawaii. It's around the world. Right now, they're doing qualifiers in every country of the world. And you can qualify by winning a race here in Belgium, and then you can go to Hawaii in September next year to be part of the drone nationals. We also have a racing simulator. It's for practicing. You can do it basically in your chair and practice on your television screen. It works really, really good. It's called Liftoff. It's been released today. There were before a lot of simulators that weren't so good as this one. This one is really realistic. It's produced by Lugos Studios. And we think it will be the next big thing, especially in winter when the weather outside is not so good. You can sit in your chair inside and play the game very realistic.
So, as Gilles said, they're releasing the game today through Steam Early Access. There are a couple of features that are really interesting for us, especially with the weather, like Gilles said. We have free flight mode, we have 3 different environments, we have custom parts, which we also, in real life, change a lot. If we want to try a different setup, we can try it. We can also connect our FPV camera. No, not our FPV camera, but our FPV goggles, video goggles, to the computer, and have actually the real experience, because the simulation also simulates the FPV camera noise and distortion you'll get when you fly behind objects. There's also support for RC transmitters, so if you are a pilot yourself, you can just connect the RC transmitter through USB. Or different USB game controllers. Everything goes, actually. There are a lot of features coming soon. The guys are working on a track editor and also on a multiplayer feature, which is, of course, a lot of fun when flying with a couple of other pilots. We have a bit of the early access game footage for you to watch. So here we see you can change every part on the racing drone. You can select different motors. You can select different propellers, which also translate into a different flying behavior in the game itself. There you see the glitches and the artifacts that you also had in the Dvr recording we saw previously. The overlay is an on-screen display, which a lot of pilots also use. Basically lets you see the horizon and also the pitch you're flying in.
And there it goes.
We do very often.
We're really looking out to the multiplayer mode of that game.
Okay, to end, we would like to invite you for a little demonstration here in the hallway. We'll be flying for a small time, but then we also like to invite you to the parking lot in the building next to this one, where we have a little bit more room and can show you a little bit better what the races are about. So I would like to thank you very much for being here, and yeah, see you later. Thank you very much.